Hello everyone, and welcome to the Midweek program at the JC Raulston Arboretum. My name is Blake and I'm the Education Assistant here at the Arboretum, and today we are at the color trials. Previously, throughout the entire growing season, this space was filled with all sorts of colors of various new and exciting perennials and annual plants that we were trialing out to see how they fared. We filmed a segment for you earlier in the year in July, and then we came back again in September to see how the color trials grew and progressed through the season. And today we will be taking a look at that program. Those of you watching this on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to our channel, and feel free to leave a comment down below. And we will have a Q&A with Bernadette at the end of this program. So stick with us until then. Y'all joining us live can drop your questions in as we go, and we will go over them at the end. And with the announcements out of the way, I can get things started with our program.
Welcome to the color trials. Today, Tim Alderton and I, Bernadette Clark, are going to take you through the gardens. We are going to show you some of the highlights of things that are doing well at this moment, and we are currently at the end of July.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing this in a couple
stages, times, yeah.
And you'll get to see the progression. You'll see how some things continue to do well and some things that sort of leave us early.
Yes, I mean, some have already left us, by the end of July, so.
Exactly. Anyway, a little bit of background for your information about the trials. We are a proving ground, a testing site for this area, the Southeast. We also participate in a program called the All-America Selections, and that is a national program. It's been in existence since, I believe, the 1930s, 1920s. It's been a long time anyway. And we are one of about 45 sites nationwide that participate in this program. They give us plant material in 3 different categories, or we participate in 3 different categories. One is their edibles in containers. I do not do the ones in the ground, just the containers. Their seed entries and their perennials. So when you come out and you look around here, you will have an opportunity to look at our labels, and you can see which ones are the ones that are submitted by the All-America Selections. When it is in the trial phase, you will see it has the numbers and the letters on here. So the first represents the year. It's our edibles in containers, entry 50. And it's compared to an industry standard. And in this case, you can see all the same information: the location, the name of the variety, the common name, scientific name, and the source. With the All-America Selections, you can enter plant material where it's in one of several ways, 3 ways. You can put it as a hanging basket entry, you can put it in the ground, you can also put it in a container. And this is decided by the companies themselves that are submitting the plant material for us to trial. So when you come out there, again, you can look, and if it's something you need in a container, you can walk up to our container pad and look to see what entries there will fit your bill. As I said before, you'll see the one that's being trialed that is not yet available on the market has a name, something like this. It has letters and numbers all together. And the industry standard, or the comparison plant, is usually beside it. That's just making the judging or the rating of it easier when I know what I'm supposed to be comparing it to.
So this is one that's caught my eye this year, is ageratum. We haven't had many ageratum recently anyways, and they always used to be seed grown. This is a vegetative one, and it's spreading.
It's a sprawler.
Unlike the old ones, which were, like I said, grown from seed, they were little bushes. This has a totally different look to me, and I'm really liking this.
A little more open.
Yeah, it's a little more open, and it's one called Monarch Magic. So, I mean, that's something that has caught my eye this summer. And I actually, whenever we got the cuttings in this spring, I was eyeing this one too, so to see what it would do.
So even as a little guy, little sprig, it was looking interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's also, can't tell today because of the recent rain, but it has usually covered with bees and things.
Insects tend to love plants that are in this family, the daisy family actually, so the Asteraceae.
I believe it was the monarch that we saw on this last week, one of the interns.
Oh, so butterfly.
Saw a butterfly.
Cool.
Okay, we've now wandered over to the Perennials. Perennials are also known as a wishbone flower. If you look inside the plant parts there, you can find a wishbone. And in Victorian times, when a gentleman went to ask for the hand of marriage of a young lady, they would often put a Perennial in the bouquet that they took.
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, it's another tidbit of information that'll win you something at trivia night.
But a few years ago, we had just one entry, I think. This white one here. This is Summery Love Pure White, which was an All-America trial one, and they have expanded from that now. We have, what is it?
Well,
about 7 different colors.
Used to be around. Purples and whites you used to see, and it's now.
But they have a whole series now, and they're very uniform, and they've been doing great in our landscapes and our trials the last couple years. But this year we have the full complement of colors.
That's what I'm enjoying. And we even have the pattern one, which I like, but you have to be close to see it.
Yeah.
This Summery Love deep yellow has like splotches of the yellow on the white. So, but it's just nice, as you were saying, to see the whole complement of colors. This year we've experienced a problem with rabbits out here in the trials, and you can look at this group of Perennials and see that it seems to be a little bit more tolerant.
Yes, they seem to be safe.
They're safe, that's right. The rabbits have not attacked them. That's not going to be the case as we move through and show you other things here in the trials. Okay, we're going to stop here with the salvias. As you can see, the bee activity throughout on all of them, but heavily on the blue.
Both the blue and the blue is exceptionally heavy right now, and the whites. But there's even some in the reds, and the red is less likely to be a bee pollinated flower.
Something that is unusual with this collection here, you have the white, the blue, and the red. They're all part of the Unplugged series, but they're not all the same type of salvia.
So we have the white and the blue are actually Salvia farinaceae as well, or mealy cup sage as well. The red one there is actually a Salvia coccinea, which it's one of the various species called red sage or whatever, and it's actually a southwestern native, as is farinaceae. But what is in front of them here are flags.
Yes. And the flags are votes from individuals that have come out to rate their favorite plants in the trials. We do this once each year, so just know and put that on your radar that your vote, you can come out and vote with us sometime. I rate the trials weekly, and then we do a report that's put onto the JC Raulston Arboretum at the end of the season, so everyone can look at that, and you can go back and see past years and see some of our top winners. But this is a way for you to have your voice heard, because we do share this information, because I collect the number of votes, and we share that with the company and on our social media platforms. So.
Okay, so now the next group of plants we're at are the Vincas, or catharanthus is actually what these are now. These aren't the Vinca minor that you have as a weed in your yard. These are an annual for us here, and they like the high summer heat and really don't get going until it gets hot. But this year, there's something new that we have in here. We have double flowered ones, and it's a new series called the Soiree double. Soiree. Double. I can't, French gets me. Anyways, Soiree series. We have at least, I think, 4 different double flowered ones, and they are grown from. They came in as cuttings, right?
They came in as cuttings, but they, as you can see, they have a totally different habit. They're more sprawling, and of course, as you were alluding to, the flowers. The
flowers are a little bit smaller, but they have extra petals in them, which is really cool to me, and it gives it a totally different look from the single flowered ones, which have been grown from seed this year, and they are mostly, I believe, the titanium series. So,
and the titanium is just a larger flower, and it's also supposed to be more disease resistant.
And right now they look great, despite, I mean, we had a very hot, dry June, but we irrigated here, so these didn't have that issue. But
they were some of the
we've also had rain since then now, and often rain is the killer of Vinca. Wet.
You were talking about our droughty period in June. These were some of those that were still looking stellar. And the others, we had other things in here, even though they were being irrigated, were struggling. So these are some that can take some really tough conditions. You still have to water, but they're pretty durable.
The coolest thing, though, I think, is that characteristic of the double this year. That is something we have not seen yet. So, and I think this would be a great one for a container edge. because it has this sprawling habit, a little less upright. So if you have a hanging basket or a container, I think these soirees, doubles, would be a good possibility.
Something that Tim and I noticed earlier on is, and as I told you, we had a problem with the rabbits out here, is that the rabbits seem to prefer the Walleriana impatiens as opposed to the ones that have the Hawkeye in their parentage.
The New Guinea type impatiens.
Right. And so when you look across here, you can see these are growing back from where they were pretty much chewed down to nubs.
Yeah, and we have some other ones that are a little less uniform down that way, but yeah, these have actually recovered fairly well. The New Guinea types look great.
Yes.
For the most part. So.
But that was just something we noticed.
Odd observation, yeah.
And as a matter of fact, with the rabbits this year, we had probably about 20% of the plants that were eaten early on, and it took us a good while to finally find something that worked for us. We're using a product, it's putrefied eggs. It's quite smelly. The concentrate will catch your attention. We're using 13 ounces, which is the label direction, 13 ounces to the gallon, and you spray it over the top of the plants. I had people asking, do you just go around the edges of the box of the bed here? No, we're going right over the plants. And making sure they get thoroughly covered, and that seems to be working for us. So we're just thankful because we had gone through multiple plantings of things, and they just kept.
We've had rabbits in the past, but never quite like this year. So now we're here at this elephant ear, or colocasia. This is one called, let's see, I have to look at the name, Royal Hawaiian Waikiki. Elephant ears are becoming really popular, and this is one that is a remake on an older selection called Nancy's Revenge, which was a green-leafed one with a cream splotch on it, and it only got it late in the season typically. So this is getting the color earlier, but the other characteristic that they've added to this is the purple stems and the purple pigmentation that you got from some of the other more purple elephant ears. So it's just a really cool one, and they are just taking off with the heat we've been having finally in July, or actually June and July. They're slow in the beginning because they are those tropicals, but for us in the southeast, these are actually can be perennials, but these will grow throughout the United States as long as you get a hot summer. But it is a cool one to include in there, give you a great texture, and it's a little different. We don't do too many elephant ears in the trials.
An interesting side fact with this is that the rabbits liked the elephant ears. The back three they nibbled on. They didn't eat it all. I think they decided they didn't like it, but they still did damage to it early on. But people, when they come out to look at this, may also wonder, why are the elephant ears in this bed? Because I have all the other edibles, in-ground edibles, in this bed. Well, it's because this is in the taro.
This is a taro, yeah. So in Hawaii, and actually the breeder of this is from Hawaii, and he was kind of doing, he didn't realize that there was ornamental value in elephant ears in the mainland. They only thought they had value in Hawaii for the longest time. And then they've realized that, and there's a whole series of these Royal Hawaiians that have been introduced here that we grow on the mainland United States now, but not typically for the purpose of taro.
And they also use the leaves to wrap things to then cook, but I've never heard of anybody eating the leaves. Do they?
Don't know. I don't know if they're actually, they might be eaten as a green somehow. I don't know.
But I do know that they use them to wrap and then cook things in. So it's in our edible bed because of that, but it's also gorgeous. So it's well worth it. It's
a historic reason for having it in the edible bed.
There you go. Absolutely. And there are other things of interest in the edible bed. We have the candle fire okra. It's a nice, beautiful red that's right beside it. So
and you can grow that as an ornamental or as an edible.
Right. And okra has a gorgeous flower, very pretty flower. So you can grow it for its pretty flower, or you can grow it because you like okra and want to have it for dinner. So
we're in our perennial trials over here now, and we're actually in front of one of a selection that we've really liked the last several years. It's not as heavily flowering as it had been earlier, but it's coming back into bud, is this hibiscus. And this is one that doesn't have a name yet. This is hibiscus 21P03, I think.
Correct. Right.
But we've had this, is this the third year?
It's the third year.
Third year, and I truly don't care if it flowers. The foliage is good enough to grow this, as far as I'm concerned. It's
the bonus is the flower.
The bonus is a flower, but there's a few on it right now. We're between, like I said, the main flushes of them, but there are tons of new buds coming. This has flowered already for over a month, I'd say.
Yep.
And we're going to get more flowers here in the coming weeks. But
those petals on the flowers, though, beautiful, overlapping, light pink.
Yep.
The veins in them are a deep pink. Just a stunning contrast to this foliage, and the plants stay this height.
Yes,
year after
there's
year.
so many hibiscus coming out now, but this one has truly impressed me, and a lot of them have the dark foliage now, but this has been very compact and very consistent for us. The flowers are big, but they aren't so big that they look just flop.
Right.
Which happens on some of them too. They have good substance to them.
Well,
and so,
last night we had the rains.
we had heavy rain, so those are the two. There's only a couple that have opened up yet this morning.
But they're not flopped over,
But
as you said.
yeah, so anyways, this is just one that has really impressed me now for the third year in a row.
But hibiscus is also one you have to have a little patience for in the springtime, because it has to come back up again from the roots. So you wait till it starts to get warm. The soil has to be warm before it starts to even get going. So if you get one, just know you got to wait. Don't think it's died. Give it some time. Let the heat and the temperatures settle in, and it'll come up.
Another bonus is this is actually a native. These are hybrids of our native mallows, or our swamp mallows, our hibiscus. Moschutos and probably coccineus would be two that are probably involved in this, but just something you can put in your landscape that is actually a native that gets that tropical look. So, it's just makes a big statement. I love perennials, and I take care of our perennial border here, so I'm always looking for something new. And this is a really nice Nephophia, which we've had, I think, this is probably the third year for this as well.
Yes.
So it's been tried now for 3 years, and it's been a great one. Really fine grassy foliage, but it's consistently throwing and repeat flowering throughout the summer. These spectacular yellow inflorescence. They're not so big that they flop everywhere. It's just a nice, pleasant one. And it's one called Glow Stick. And this is from Darwin Perennials, which is associated with ball.
And I like this one because it's also where it flowers. It's just above the foliage.
Yep.
It's not one of the real tall ones.
And like I was saying,
not
you have
some
flopping.
of the others that are buried down into the foliage. And of course, being a bright yellow helps you see it too.
It's always been fresh.
Yes.
It would, even if it weren't in flower, it looks as good as a lot of ornamental grasses as far as I'm concerned. Not all the Nephophias do that for us, so
Right. You can
this
look
is
and see
great.
the various stages. You can see some newer ones coming along. You can see at the very
We've
back
had
one.
flowers on these probably for a month and a half as well, so like I said, a really good long season bloomer. We are at a group of plants that we're becoming a little bit more popular again. They used to be, I'd say they're probably one of those old-fashioned plants, at least the typical one here. This is Heliotropium. And what you used to see were always these Heliotropium and Arboreums, which have a wonderful fragrance. And they're often a spindly plant whenever you first plant them and don't always fill out a container well. But this new one here, this Aromagica purple, has done really well for us and has that aromatic fragrance. This is one I think would actually be another one that has really, would be really good on a container. Up at a level you can get to it and smell
it easily.
Because it does have a really nice vanilla-y fragrance to me, or baby powder. And I like that. It has a wonderful color too that you don't get in every other plant around here, and texture. But beside it is another one which lacks the fragrance, unfortunately. But this is Heliotropium, and it's a hybrid type Heliotropium called Augusta Lavender. And for me, This is actually a perennial forest here in the southeast, and I've had this one growing in our border now for a few years after having had it in the trials for, I think this is the third or fourth time now.
We've had it for several years.
But this is one that I think has a really good possibility to grow as an annual further north. It gives, often people confuse it as a verbena. It kind of has that look, but it flowers the entire season. And right now, the pollinators aren't on this right now, but later on in the day, this will be covered in butterflies, especially the little skipper butterflies, the copper skippers. Just adore these Heliotropium Augusta lavenders, in my experience.
The Augusta lavender is a tough one.
It is.
It's one that, because I have some at my house, and I have them in an area I ignore.
Yes.
And they are really tough.
It does not need irrigation once it's established.
Once it's established, and they're out by my mailbox that gets no water other than by nature. So, and they've been thriving and flowering.
And as a perennial forest here in the south, it actually starts flowering sometimes as early as March, and it will go till November. So it is one that just has that staying power for the whole season. So two really great plants, I think, to try in your own landscapes. Okay, so we're back here in the trial. No, I'm sorry.
You're good. We're back here in the color trials.
We're back here in the color trials here and approaching autumn. And we're seeing now what is still looking good and what may have improved over the last month or so since we were last here. One that we are at right now that is still excellent is this Ageratum Monarch Magic. This is a vegetative ageratum which has been remarkable the entire summer. It's fresh as ever, if you ask me right now. What do you think, Bernadette?
Oh, and the butterflies enjoyed this on a sunny day. Of course, today is a little overcast and foggy.
Yeah.
But the pollinators all seem to come and flock to this as well. So it'd
as
be a
its
good
name
one.
says, Monarch Magic.
Oh, absolutely, that is true.
Going back to, we've had a little bit of precipitation this past month or so. We are waterlogged at this point. So. Which we don't always have at this time of the year. So each year is a little bit different, and that's why it is really important for us to check these things out and see how things have changed from year to year.
And this amount of water will also cause a lot of the plants to go ahead and collapse, and that'll be the end of their show for the year. So water is a blessing and a curse in some
at the
cases.
same time.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, so good on this Ageratum, which looks spectacular.
Right.
We've moved to higher ground for this next one here. We're looking at the Torrenias, which have been great the entire summer. We have this whole selection of colors this year, which is the first time we've had that opportunity. I think we started with this white one here. And this is, what is this series then, Bernadette?
It's called the Summery Love series. And as Tim said, this white one is the first one. This was a numbered variety here in the trials just a few years ago. And what I found remarkable about the white one when it was being trialed is that all summer long, it seemed to be pretty much average with the comparison plants. But in the fall is when it starts to shine. And as you look across this series that ranges from the whites to a bicolor, pinks, and the different shades of blues, you can see the foliage on this. It's a deeper green. It's a much more mounding plant. And like I said, this one was the fall is when the white one, the Summery Love Pure White, seemed to shine. And I noticed that across there. That's why I was.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's why I was like,
you've been looking more closely at it than me, so it's like.
No, it's only been into the last. I knew in the fall.
This is a whole lot. Look how yellow the yellow one is.
Yeah, I mean they're all getting
and
like that.
And the purple one is starting to yellow.
I mean, you've got that one that's still
some are
sort
bronzing.
Of part of it is they're needing some fertilizer.
And that's what I was going to say. The bronzing and the yellowing could be caused due to nutritional deficiencies, but that could be caused by the excessive rain too. So it's like.
Oh, absolutely, because it washes it out. Oh, and look at this. We even have a bee.
Yeah.
They sort of sat there for the night and got stuck. You know? Celosias are another crop that has done well the summer, and now it's turning into fall and it's shining. This series, this is a combination pot. It's called Playlist Combo Uptown Funk. anyway, it's made up of different colors of the Flama series. So you have all these bright electric colors, and it's really coming into its own now here in the latter part of the season. So the celosia might be a good one for pots. It also, to me, looks like it'd be a good one because of the fall colors and looking Halloweenish. So depending on how our fall is, we may have maybe late into it before we have a frost. So this might be one that would serve you well on a container on your porch.
What did these look like when we were filming the first time?
They stayed small for a long time. That's why I was thinking, yeah, I was sort of embarrassed because I thought the company, if they ever came, would think, what did you do to my plants? But they stayed small, and they finally have gotten some size. Part of it is the soil's not right at the top of this, but still, even a little bit more height. But I just think these colors and things, it just draws your eye because they're so bright.
We're here at the Lantanas, which this is something you think of through our hot summer months here in the Southeast is doing an excellent job, but they are still at it right now here. Like we said, approaching fall, and having just had heavy rain, they are still as floriferous as ever. The florets are all on there, and there's just great coverage. And we are starting to even have some cooler nights, which will often cause them to not flower as much, but they still look excellent. What do you think, Bernadette?
Oh, I have been pleased with their growth all season long. There again, it's another one that's good for your pollinators. There's a range of colors. This is a very small representative of the colors that are out there of the Lantanas. And like a lot of the plants, the breeding, they're making them smaller, more compact. Most people are on smaller lots, or they just want to do a container for their balconies, their porches, and these are perfect. So it's another one, as you said. I also saw that we have some Halloween decorations.
Yes, we're getting those. The spiders are loving it right now.
The spiders are, yes. But anyway, as I said, lovely mix of colors and just tough. They like our heat and our humidity.
So what are some of the series we have here?
Okay, we have the Gem series, and we have Gem Compacts. This very first one is Gem Compact Yellow. This is another compact. It's the Rose. The bigger one here that you and I were talking about, saying we sort of like the proportions and a little bit bigger, a little bit looser. This is a Lucky. This Lucky Lemon maybe, or Lucky Gold. This is Lucky Gold. And they also have a nice fragrance. I find
it interesting. I might not say
interesting. That means you don't like it.
It has a little burntness to it to me, but it's not bad.
Nah, those smell nice. They smell nice.
But yeah, for me, like we were saying, I like the bigger size, but I'm often working in big spaces like here in the Arboretum where I have a border. So the larger growing ones are great for me. But again, wonderful for containers. You can incorporate these butterfly magnets into a smaller container with these smaller growing Lantanas, which are more sized for the typical residential home today. So if we get into 60-degree days,
we're living for 60-degree days.
They're going to totally shut down the flowers and the foliage. In my experience.
Well, a lot of things here start to where they have a hard time 60 and starting below.
So these will probably go through most of October in flowering. But once we get to close to freezing temperatures, they're going to say, it's just too darn cold. I'm gonna take off. I'm a tropical plant for the most part, and they're gonna take a break. Even though these are in reality are true perennial shrubs to subshrubs, where they are fully hardy, and even many of these will act as perennials in our climate here in Raleigh, but they are typically grown as an annual from here north. So we're in a patriotic spot here right now. We have red, white, and blue salvias here. This is a series called the Unplug series. And we have Unplug White, Unplug So Blue, and Unplug Red. So in my experience anyways, the salvia farinaceus super long season. They will go from flowering as cuttings right up to frost. The Salvia coccinea will slow down a little bit through the season as it cools off a bit, but they keep on going for a long time. They're going to be more frost intolerant than the Farinaceas. So I expect these to go until at least the end of October and possibly into November, as long as we stay fairly frost free.
Well, you touched on something else, using them for cuts. You can definitely take these all season long, anytime during the summer through the end of their flowering, cut them and take them inside. And that's a nice thing to do, to be able to enjoy whatever you're growing inside as well as out.
And these have been really consistent. I grow some other Salvia farinaceas in the garden. And I mean, they've been flowering the entire summer, but the individual florets are much larger on these. And it's a bit more compact size, but the coverage is really good still this late in the season. My other ones are starting to fizzle a little bit, but these still look excellent. We're here at the begonias, and for me, I'm seeing differences in sizes here. This is something that's relatively new. These are kind of on the line of the old wax begonias here. There's one series here, I can't tell what the name is at this moment. The Senator Pink Improved is kind of that traditional wax begonia, which is a little ball forming thing. And then we got into the angel wing type ones, which we don't actually have here anymore in this bed, but we have the big series and the Viking series, which are larger growing begonias. Those were the next ones that came about. But now we're getting into this series called the hulas, which kind of incorporate the compactness of the traditional wax begonias, like that Senator type, and combining it with the more relaxed and larger growing, broader spreading growth of the big and Viking, and you get the hulas, which are but still that low growing ground covering type.
Right. That's what I like about the hulus, is that spreading feature. It's very floriferous. You'll see that they all have, even this late in the season, they still have a tremendous number of flowers on them. And I like that more relaxed form. Not saying that there's not a place for both forms, but just saying that with that hulu, I do like that sprawling nature of it. Oh, how long are they going to be flowering? They're going to be going until
again frost.
Yeah, they're more sensitive to the cold. Yeah. Okay.
So we're back here in the Vinca section, or catharanthus section of the trials, and we were. This is one I know we touched on before, and there's various characteristics we were looking at then: the doubles versus the singles, which the doubles are totally new. But now at this time of the year, I came back here because things are still flowering now, but this is a group of plants I don't expect to last much longer. The Vinca tend to really like it when it's hot. And as the nights start to cool into the 50s and then into the 40s, these will quickly go down. And I'm actually seeing issues with moisture, being said that we have had just a tiny bit of rain the last few weeks and few days.
And Vinca likes it dry
They
anyway,
like it drier. They are a little bit intolerant of soil moisture and can sometimes get fungal issues. And I mean, the selections are being made to help alleviate that, but I'm still starting to see some issues starting to form in these. And I think that may end up being some of their demise.
Right, but they have been really nice all summer long, and as you said, it's just going to be the cooler temperatures that tend to send these down. And this is what we were talking about. You can see, I guess it'd be your left, the larger single flower, and to the ones to the side of it, these are the doubles. Just a different flower form, and makes it a lot more interesting.
Yes.
And it's just because it's different. It doesn't make it better, it's just different. I'm doing what I don't want people to do, is pull the plants. Another old-fashioned plant that we're showing today is the marigold. Marigolds have been around in people's gardens forever, it seems
so
like.
They're an easy one that anybody can grow from seed at home.
Right. It's a good first one to take.
It's that one for a child to start out with, because they germinate so quickly. You can go through the whole process in a matter of weeks to months.
No matter how old that child is, right?
Yes.
Whether they're 80 or
That
8.
child that's
Okay.
8, yeah, exactly. So you have that attention span, but they go through cycles of their own through the season. For me, they're really good earlier in the season, but once we have really hot weather here, they tend to say, it's a little too hot and want to take a vacation.
Right.
And then
right.
they perk back up in the fall, and that's what's happening right now. And I expect these to look nice right up till frost now.
Correct. And they're another one that's good for fall colors.
Yeah.
So make it interesting in your yard.
In the Hispanic world in Mexico, they have the Day of the Dead, and this is like a flower. And I think they use these in India and stuff
In
too,
India,
so.
around the garlands for around the elephants and things, yes. And here again, I like the fragrance of the marigolds. What do you say?
It's familiar to me. I grew up with it, and so it's so familiar to
Right.
me. I've been growing marigolds since I was 5 or younger,
probably younger
in
than that,
reality.
but yeah.
So in Western Pennsylvania, where I'm from, these just go the entire summer. But like I said, here where we have the hot weather, they sometimes get a little bit iffy through the summer months, but typically pick back up.
It's another cheerful plant. I
Yeah.
like it.
So we're at another one of Bernadette and I's true favorites of plants. This is Gomphrena fireworks. It's been around, but it's an oldie but goodie again. And I love the size of it. So many of the Gomphrena that are available today, it's like, is it the Gumball series?
Yeah.
It was one.
Small, real tight.
They've just made them these little
Tight,
bushes.
yeah.
I like big and bold and open. This is one for the back of your border, and it will keep on going. It tends to be a little bit slow early in the season, but then it takes off.
It needs I think the warmer temperatures.
But then it's going to keep going.
And these are
They
just
dry.
absolutely, yes, exactly. You could take these in arrangements, super easy, and you could take them in and keep them during the fall.
But actually, you can hang them upside down and
let 'em
dry
dry.
them, and then have them throughout the entire winter.
Yes, this fireworks in particular, when you look at the flower itself, you've just got that, it's more open.
Yeah.
The traditional Gomphrena is a little tighter, the flower is, but this one, the whole form,
It's
the
a whole,
flowers,
it's relaxed.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's relaxed. But it's absolutely gorgeous. You can't say enough good things about this Gomphrena. We were asked why we're growing this if it's been around for a long time. First of all, we put things in the trials that the company has asked us to trial and see how it grows. In this case, they know that it does well here, but it's to make sure that the public, because it is a tried and true, one that'll do well for us. So if it does well for us, it'll do well for you at home. And it's just to keep that out there, keep it out there. You see that it's here. They didn't enter any of the small, little, more compact units. This is the one that they want to showcase. We're standing in front of the spectacular New Guinea Impatiens, excuse me. And if you remember earlier, we talked about in the season the problem with the rabbits here at the Arboretum. And you can see, as we talked about the hybrids that had the background with the hawker eyes, which is the New Guinea Impatiens, they were not being touched by the rabbits. It was the ones that were the
Wallerianas, the busy Lizzies, which is what this coral, beacon coral improved is here. And they've recovered beautifully, I will say that.
And that's why I just want to make sure you see that even though they did nibble down, that you can see that the plant itself has stayed small and compact, but it has recovered and is doing a beautiful display. Plants are covered in flowers, but the true stars this summer anyway have been the hybrids that the rabbits have left alone. And
they've been spectacular the entire season.
The entire season, and they'll go.
I mean, the cool nights will again slow them down, but they are looking spectacular right now that we're still in the, having nights at least in the 50s, if not 60s still. And then it'll be when we get in the low 40s that they'll say, I'm getting a little chilly.
We all do at that point. We're looking for a blanket.
But they should go till frost. So we're here now at another group of plants that typically does real well in the early summer. Then it says it's a little hot in the summer and kind of says, I'm going to take a vacation through the worst of it, and then perks up in the fall. That's the dahlias. And they're starting to come back into their own, like I said. And Bernadette and I both have some individual favorites here. And the one I'm really liking right now, I'm standing right next to, is this Dahlia Virtuosa Vibrant Violet. And to me, it is just a standout here. It's a bit broader than some of the others, but it is just covered in flowers right now. It's very compact despite this being a little bit broader.
Look at the number of buds.
The blossoms are great. And the dahlias in general, like I said, they don't like it when it's real hot. And they will sometimes go semi-dormant through the summer months when it's like July and August. And then we're into September and October, they really perk up and they are as content as ever in the cool nights that we have up until frost. And that's where I see these as a great plant for us here at this late season. So you have your favorite.
And yours is aptly named though. I mean, look at the
Virtuosa, vibrant violet.
So bright a violet. My favorite is called Darlin Radiant Peach.
So which one is that?
It's actually Darlin Radiant Peach. And that is, I have to come into the bed and I'm sorry because it's squish in here. You can see the flower here. I like the bicolored flower. I think that's really pretty and I just have enjoyed seeing it developing. You can see some of these others have more of that peachy color in them. It's just to me, a very eye-catching one. But as the season has gone on, this one here, and I was going to put this label back, but this one I believe is, this one here is called Venti Magenta plus White Eye, and this one may end up bumping my other favorite. We're going to see, but this one's just recently been coming on and looking spectacular. There again, it doesn't have the number of blossoms that yours has. Yeah. So yours, I think, trumps in the flower department, but the flower patterns, I don't know. I could go head to head with you. Looks like a kitty cat's tail. Yeah.
So we're here at a millet, which I think is a panacetum now, but this is one called Jade Princess.
Correct.
It kind of has that like a miniature corn looking plant to me. Love the inflorescence on it though. These spikes on the tops of them. It's a relatively short-lived annual. And so, I mean, you could sow it a couple times early on in the season, but you still get the structure through the entire season. And I think the birds actually will like it being as a millet.
And we'll leave it so that they can. And that's one of the reasons it's in the edible bed, is because
historically, I mean, we used millet.
You grind it, you could use it as a grain for food.
But I mean, when it's fresh, it's just gorgeous. When it ages, it has that, I say, Halloween feel. Right. So, I mean, instead of having those shocks of corn at the corner of your house, plant millet, and you can have these miniature ones and put your pumpkins with them. And again, structure-wise, this will hold up right till frost, but the foliage does senesce, and it is on some of the other plants. We had 2 sowings here, actually, I think, just a few weeks apart.
Well, the reason for that was the
rabbits.
Rabbits ate, so yes, I had to sow again. But I have no experience with them as cuts. Do you? Have you ever cut them?
I have not cut them personally, but I've seen them used as cuts.
Were they dried or were they?
I think they weren't fresh cuts.
They were fresh, okay.
Fresh cuts, but you could easily dry them as well. I would probably hang them upside down to let them dry out before, if you were going to use them as a dried specimen. And I wouldn't wait until late in the season for them to totally ripen. I would harvest them early.
Okay, I've been asked to play with the cattails. So as you can see, even though they have these spike formations, it's very soft, very easy to wrap your hand around.
Great one for kids.
Yes, it's a pet, children friendly one.
Yes.
It's not going to hurt them.
It's non-toxic and
well, I wouldn't suggest they sit there and chew on it, but you know.
Grasses in general typically.
But anyway, it is very soft to the touch.
So we're here again at the Colocasia Royal Hawaiian Waikiki. This one has had ups and downs through the summer. When it was hot, this one has some white variegation on it, which gives it a little bit of an issue in our full blazing sun here in the trials, and it burns a little bit. But with our slightly cooler nights, it's starting to actually come out of that, even though this is a plant that really likes it hot. If this was in part shade, I don't think we might have that issue with the burn on the foliage when it's really bad and hot. But it's also been enjoying our excess precipitation. In the last 2.5–3 months, we have had over a half of year's precipitation, we've had like double the precipitation for each of the last 3 months. So what would be expected. And so this is one that's actually really enjoys the moisture, but it doesn't want it through the winter months. So this is perennial for us here. A little further north, it is going to be a traditional annual, but it's starting to recover, like I said, from the hot weather. We actually had 100 degrees at the end of August, so that was some of the downfall of that. But it is now perked up. The new growth is that is coming up is all fresh, and it's starting to look great again.
Okay, we're here with one of my favorite plants. It's a sunflower. It's not your traditional one spike. They've now been breeding and doing all sorts of multi-stems. The multi-stem Suncredible series has a yellow, a pure yellow, and this one here you see, which is Saturn, which has the ring,
yes,
like you see with Saturn.
And these are vegetatively grown.
Correct.
Almost every other sunflower annual one is a seed-grown strain. And this is, when they started the Suncredible series and released them, it was a totally different world as far as I'm concerned.
New ball game.
A new ball
Totally,
game for
new.
sunflowers. Typically, these start flowering early in the season and go the whole season for us. These were delayed this year due to our rabbit issues.
Yes.
But still, a month or so ago when we were last here, these were sticks. And we had 2 pieces that were still alive, and they have just exploded.
What with the warm temperatures?
The warm temperatures, and they've done what we typically would expect to see have happened in June and July.
Right. Right.
But these are going to go right into frost now.
In the past, too, the Suncredible series has been taller. There again, I think it's because the rabbits had nibbled on stuff and the young plants, and this was the best that it could do. But as you can see, it's just all the flowers across
There's
the plant.
actually only 2 plants here.
Right.
That survived the rabbit
infestation.
Onslaught. And if these were regular sunflowers, they might have 3 or 4 stems.
Right.
And you might have some of the smaller selections have multiple flowers, but they aren't as persistent as these.
Right.
And these are excellent cut flowers because of this. You can use these the entire season and have a wonderful display.
And they're also pollinator friendly.
Yes, despite the fact that they are
sterile.
These are sterile, which is why they continue to flower. Right. They still apparently have nectar. So these are still pollinator magnets. There's actually a moth I see right here. Mm-hmm. I see some other tiny bees on here, and it's still rather earlier in the day, and I think we're gonna have a whole onslaught of insects on here later on in the day as well. So we're at a plant right next to the sunflowers that we just visited. And this is a Tacoma. This is Tacoma stands, and there's 2 different ones here. It's subtle on the differences, I have to say. We have Kalama pomegranate on probably the right-hand side of the screen, and on the left-hand side you have Kalama blood orange. Both of these are very vigorous plants. They minimally flowered for us this season. That's the only thing. I think if we were a little bit further south into zone 8B and 9, these are going to be perennials, and they're going to flower most of the summer. They really take a while to get established in our season here, even starting with plants fairly early on that were of decent size. But if you need something that will, as a great filler, a hummingbird magnet, as I just saw a hummingbird
I just saw the hummingbird
fly out of here. They came to visit. These are excellent. This is plants in the trumpet vine family without the issues of our native trumpet vine sprouting up everywhere. This is something you can incorporate into your landscape and feel safe. And it flowers once it gets going from late summer into fall is what I'm going to suggest it in this area here. And it'll probably go right up till frost.
Okay, I'm not that familiar with the Tacoma stands. And to me, when I look at it, there's a lot of real estate that's green and very little flowers. The flowers themselves are beautiful, but not that many of them. So is that traditional?
It just depends on the individual selections. And the traditional Tacomas were yellow. and
true.
they're getting more into some of the orange tones. And I think that's where they're going, orange and red tones. And I think that's where they're going with these.
And they're all this tall.
And they get quite large, yes.
Okay.
They're from northern Mexico into southwestern United States. They're very drought tolerant once they're established as well. So again, this could be a great one for the southern half of the United States, the Gulf Coast, and across Texas into Arizona and Southern California. I see these being as excellent plants. For us, we're just on the edge. Okay, so now we're back to the heliotropes, heliotropiums, which we were here earlier in the season. Right now, I tried to smell it. We've had heavy rain again, and I can't smell it right now. I think later on the day, when the oils get gone, it'll be so much more pleasant. But this is your traditional one, and it is standing out to me now at this point. I will say that.
The whole summer, it's been like this. It was
they're so dense right now, it's just covered.
This was one of the favored plants in our trials.
We don't get that intensity of purple from very many things either, as part of it, I think. But this is a traditional, it's super uniform on these. And I think I've grown heliotropium in the past and not been uniform on some of the arborescent types. But this has been great for us. But for me, this is just the longevity of the flower. I can get flowers out of this from March until frost.
Oh, absolutely.
Late March, that is.
It can be a little bit invasive.
Is your seeding or not?
Not yet.
Because I have another one that
come up where it's.
So for me, this is an improvement over one called Heliotropium plexicali, which is a species that's probably in its parentage based on the way it looks. It self-sows prolifically.
Okay.
This is a much better behaved plant for me. It's a little taller, but they are butterfly magnets for me in the garden. So I really adore this plant, and I just love the intensity of the color on the traditional Heliotropium arborescences. In this case, the Aromagic purple. So we're here at the Agastakis, and we have actually 4 entries in this. They're kind of broken up in the bed. 2 of them are really standouts right now.
Correct.
The others look great early on, the Summer Long series, which in lilac and coral, but we have Summer Long lemon elsewhere, which we'll show you later on. And this Celestia is just shaking with bumblebees and skipper butterflies. It's animated right now.
Exactly.
And it's been beautiful.
And it was more upright.
It is.
With
It's
all
a little
the rains, you can see that it's laying down, but it's not flat, so it still has a nice display. But the color, just the toughness of this plant, it's looked great all summer, and it'll go well into the fall.
Oh yes, they don't mind the cool weather. They are great bridge plants. They take a little bit of heat to get them going, but once they get going, they are wonderful up until late typically. And this is just wonderfully attractive right now, and you can't say any more better about it. I mean, it's just wonderful.
Right.
And yeah, there's just all kinds of stuff going on with that one.
It's hard to talk because your eyes are looking at all the different pollinators, and I find that I'm attracted to that, and I stop thinking about what I'm supposed to be talking about.
Mesmerized.
I'm mesmerized by it. Exactly. And as you said,
we have
yellow.
The lemon, which is an adjacent area that I think we should go over and check out.
And this one's
not moving yet, but it's a little different.
It's more compact, and you can see that it's a mounded habit.
Yeah.
So this one with the rains, it didn't do that. It wasn't splitting, but the laying down. But the color, as you said, the color on this nice clear yellow, is an attractive.
Yes, this is a Summer Long lemon.
Attractive.
And I think all of these have been from Darwin. And anyways, this is just another one that has been impressive this season here in the trials, and it's holding up. Like I said, some of the other Summer Longs are starting to fizzle a little bit, but this one's looking great.
Were you playing with the grasshopper? Is that what you were doing?
There's a grasshopper in here.
He's right.
Not that we really want that, because they do eat things.
Well.
But there are other insects in here. I saw some small moths. This isn't moving as much as the Celestia was yet, but I have a feeling later on in the morning that's been getting more sun on it longer, I believe, than this has. So
this one will start
moving later.
And shaking.
And I can see yellow, tubular yellow flowers. This is a little bit more attractive even to hummingbirds, I think, than the Celestia, which has a shorter floral tube and is more conducive to bees and butterflies. we're now here at the Portulaca plot. We have a couple different series here of Portulaca, and we've been watching these all summer long. Some of them, I think, have been better at flowering through the heat of the summer than others. And you were
we were just talking about how
yeah.
there's a series called Mojave that I was noticing when I was doing my ratings later in the day, that I was noticing they were staying fully open,
yeah.
whereas others were already starting to close.
Earlier in the summer when we were having like the mid 90s, you know, from
100.
late morning on, they would often close. Almost all of them would close midday, even though they came out at 10 o'clock in the morning. So they got up late and they went to bed early. But with our cooler nights, I think these are they take a little longer to open in the morning, but they persistently stay open through the day. So I think that's going to be a benefit for the fall. These will go right up until frost for us, and probably people growing them further north don't have the issue with the hot days closing them up like we do. So you get a much better display earlier on than what we do. But we get to persist into the fall a whole lot longer with our mild weather that we have here.
Well, you know, and something else that I noticed with the entries this year that I really liked were the bicolors, the two colors in the flowers, whether it be, well, as Tim's pointing out, it's like a cream and the tangerine, or the yellow and the white with it. There are other places down here you'll see variations on that theme. I just think there again, you need to have them maybe in a basket or a container so it's up a little bit higher so people notice those differences. Yeah, against your shirt, that looks really good. But I have been really impressed with as you said, the plot or the quilt of many colors.
Yes,
here,
we have that advantage here that we have
yes.
a whole bunch planted
well,
close
and also,
together.
Unfortunately, when we got things delivered, some boxes had been topsy-turvy, so we do our best in selecting what we think should be the colors. We don't know until they flower, so when you look across the bed, sometimes
there is a little inconsistency
a little bit
here
of
and there.
Inconsistency, correct.
But they are just opening up now mid-morning, so.
Well, the fog's lifted and we're getting on with the day.
But they have not, I mean, another issue in the past had been they would rot out too. And I have not seen that any of these. These have all been good series, the Mojave, the Porto Grande, and I think Mega Pizzazz series. Mm-hmm. They've all done really well here. And then there's just Pizzazz Nano, so a little bit more compact theoretically. So, but great weed suppressing plants that do really well in our climate.
Thank you for joining us today. Tim and I enjoyed taking you around and showing you different things in the trials. Love to have you come back at a time in person. Love to have an opportunity to chat with you one-on-one. And just wanted to make sure that you know you're always welcome.
And we hope that you will come multiple times through the years. As you were hopefully able to see in this presentation, that the garden does change. It's not stagnant. From one time of the year, if you come when we first plant early in the season and then midsummer and then in the late summer and fall, you will see totally different gardens here in reality. The plants will have reacted a lot different. And we hope that you come back next year to see that whole process go through in person.
Awesome. That was loads of fun, y'all, taking us through the color trials like that, showing us all the plants. Thank you so much for working on this project with us.
It was a lot of fun. Memory lane.
Yeah.
It was. No kidding. Ah, the good old days.
Yeah.
The 2024 growing season.
When it was warmer.
Honestly, no, it was all kinds of everything. We had that drought, and then we had the flooding. The flooding. It was.
Now we're back to drought.
And
now
the
we're back to
rabbits.
Yeah. No kidding.
Forget, for me, 24 is the rabbit.
Honestly.
The coyotes are back.
Are they?
Yes.
That's good news.
Yeah.
That's good news.
For us, not for the rabbits.
Yeah, well, obviously. Okay, so let's see. There were a handful of questions that came in. So let's get started with those. Okay, so first off, Laura wants to know, do you trial plants for shade or more shade than the beds we're currently standing in?
Yes, we do have shade trials and entries, but this year most of the ones in the shade were the Walleriana type Impatiens.
And the rabbits found those delicious.
And the rabbits found those early, even with replacing them. Like I had said earlier in the program, it took us a while to find a product that actually repelled the rabbits. So anyway, make a long story short, the Impatiens were the biggest show in the shade, and they were attacked.
The lackluster this year because
very
of it.
lackluster, yes, and there was no reason to highlight anything in the shade because of that.
For sure, but next year.
Typically, yes, the Wallerianas are bread and butter. We normally do really well.
And
and
begonias.
all the colors that we
Right.
have from
Also be
those.
Yeah. Well, now we know how to control the rabbits. So presumably next year.
Hopefully the coyotes will have taken care of them before.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I
on
meant
top of
by
that, there's
we.
always a challenge every year. There's a challenge. So next year will be something else. We just, now that we understand
enough.
and know how to do the rabbits.
Yeah.
15 years ago, we were dealing with downy mildew. Now we don't worry about that, but
Speaking of the Impatiens.
Yeah.
But anyways, for those of you that don't know what we're teasing about, is years ago, the Impatiens actually had to take a step away from the industry because the downy mildew was such a problem with them, and the companies went back to the drawing board and did a lot of breeding with them, and finally came up with some series that could tolerate the downy mildew. So
Nice.
that's what we're alluding to and
Yeah.
laughing about.
and we were afraid that we were going to lose the common impatiens,
Right.
bedding impatiens entirely because of that. So
No kidding. But thank
They
goodness
overcame
for horticultural science and all the wonderful things we do to make the world a better place. Make sure we still have plants. So
And plant pathologists,
Yeah.
entomologists.
for
and
sure, takes a village. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, Candace would like you to talk a little bit more about the lantanas. She wants to know if they are perennial to zones 7 and 8.
Oh, most of them are going to be perennial to zone 8.
Oh yeah.
Some of them in zone 7. It just and it also depends on your climate of zone 7 and 8. For instance, Pacific Northwest zone 8 is not East Coast, Southeast Coast zone 8, for instance, and you probably can't get them to grow out there. They need the summer heat. But it's that our hot summers and then relatively mild winters that allow us to have them as perennials.
But also remember that you can have little microclimates at your house,
Totally.
up against the house with against a wall or a brick wall or whatever.
Yeah.
So it radiates the heat. So
Yeah.
you might be able to, but as
Further
you said,
north, yeah,
typically it's
I mean,
a little iffy.
Though, I used to think that the dwarf ones also were not as hardy. I have some out at the street that are now 3 years old, and they've been coming back and doing their thing. And they only get a foot tall by 12 to 18 inches across, instead of the 6 or 8 feet that I can get sometimes out of the truly larger growing ones.
Right.
Okie dokie. Marilyn wants to know, do you guys ever trial any of the tattoo series of catharanthus?
Actually, we did years ago.
Oh yeah, is that right?
Years ago, we had some tattoos, but I think that was only one season. I don't believe
kidding.
they entered it in multiple seasons, but that was several years back. And I honestly, I'm sorry, I can't tell you
How well they did?
well, yeah, I can't tell you really anything about them. I just remember the name because there was that printing on the actual flower itself.
Sure.
Hence the name tattoo.
Yeah. And is that searchable? And are we able
Yeah.
to
Oh,
search our?
Yes, actually, I guess
in
we
our,
probably could look in the database.
Or not in necessarily the database, is
The trial
the
reports,
trial reports.
on our website.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. The trial reports are on our website, so you can comb through those and see how tattoo did for yourself.
Right. But I'd start probably 10 years back.
Okay,
Yeah.
at the very least. All right. Well, that's good to know. Okie dokie. Tim, you brought these over. Do you want to talk a little bit about these?
No, we were talking about these in the
Yeah,
in the presentation.
for sure.
So they're still going. This is both of the heliotropiums. This is the heliotropium, let me think, arboreum. And it's aromagic
Yeah.
purple. And then this is a hybrid heliotropium Augusta lavender. And this one's perennial for us. This is tender.
Yeah, well, Tim was saying that the scent on this one is lightly fragrant. I'd say more than lightly. Like, you don't even have to try that hard. You can smell it.
I mean,
it's
it's not
it's coming over.
overwhelming. It's not
It's real
overwhelming.
delightful.
It's a pleasant fragrance.
yeah, pleasant, mild for
Yeah.
sure.
But
Understated.
no fragrance on Augusta lavender, but
No kidding.
a good
I
grower.
gotta try it. Just
Yeah,
to
I
check.
might as well, because your nose might be broken, Tim. What do you think?
Actually, there is a scent, but
Oh my
you
gosh.
talk
So
about
subtle.
it's extreme.
It's
Oh, yeah.
not
very
aromagic.
subtle. And most people
Yeah.
aren't gonna, since it's on the ground, they're not gonna get down there and put their nose.
But I
in
grow
it.
this one as a
sure.
perennial, and this, of course, is an annual. But this looks spectacular right now. And we missed a frost last night, and it could be another couple of weeks till we have another opportunity, which is good. We still have not had a major frost or freeze here. So
Sure. Okay, well, it's been a beautiful year looking at all the annuals. It's been wonderful going through them and seeing how they change throughout the season. So this is our program for today. So thank you so much, Bernadette and Tim, for pulling this together and showing us all these plants and just, giving all the little tidbits. Your wisdom comes through when you talk about these plants, and we learn so much about all these random things. So we really do love getting to hear you talk about these things. So thank you so much for doing this with us.
Glad to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today on the Midweek program. We will be back next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Tim and Greg will be doing...
that's right.
Yeah, that's right. They'll be going over bog plants, and that will be just absolutely wonderful. So we will see you all next time. Y'all take care.